You've spent your whole life taking care of others, but have you ever stopped to ask, what did I miss for myself? Another ordinary evening settled in our home, a familiar scene etched in time. The clock on the wall ticked, each sound a reminder of time's relentless slow march. At the kitchen table, shadows danced in the dim light of the overhead lamp. My husband sat in the living room, absorbed in his computer, the screen's glow casting light on his face. It was a common scene. He immersed in his task while I sat quietly, feigning interest in a book or engaging in trivial pursuits. All felt just right. Excessively cozy. Calm prevailed, emotions remained steady. That was the issue. The silence hung like a burden between us. The closeness we had diminished, creating a chasm neither of us could cross. It felt like ages since he had really seen me, like in the beginning, when his eyes once ignited with longing. I possessed all I required, yet reality slipped through my fingers. I wasn't miserable, not in the way I thought one might be in a troubled marriage. Silence reigned, conflict absent, yet a dull ache of inertia consumed me. I yearned for a spark, a jolt to shatter the dull routine. I yearned for vitality, for a spark to break through this haze. In that moment he entered, the stepson. Unexpectedly he arrived after a long day, seeking shelter for the night. Weeks had passed since I last saw him, yet there he stood in the doorway, a touch more mature than I recalled. Mind if I stay here for a bit? His voice danced lightly, yet an undercurrent of tension lingered beneath. He hesitated, not wanting to impose, yet his very being seemed to beckon, opening a portal to an unknown realm I wasn't certain I could face. I nodded, initially indifferent. He was, in the end, family. As he passed, I felt the air change, the room subtly shifting around us. Thoughts clashed in my mind. Had he changed? Or was it just me? His gaze held an unnameable intensity, a sharpness that heightened my awareness of him like never before. My mind wandered, yet his gaze held me captive, probing for a truth I hesitated to reveal. He took a seat at the table opposite me, and for a brief moment silence enveloped us. This silence felt unique between us. It was not the easy quiet of shared years. It brimmed, heavy with silence charged with possibilities. "How's it going?" He finally spoke, shattering the quiet. His voice was low, yet it carried a weight, a depth unfamiliar to me. I paused, then let it go. "It's okay, you see. Same old, same old." I preferred to keep it brief. It was futile to act as if all was well. Yet, I found it impossible to articulate my true concerns. I wished to avoid appearing ungrateful for my life. Ace craved more. He scrutinized me, his gaze sharpening as if deciphering my thoughts. His gaze held a depth beyond that of a stepson for his stepmother, something more profound, familiar yet strange, something that quickened my heartbeat. "Your appearance is striking." "Distinct," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper, neither praise nor offense. It was a moment, one that left me feeling exposed yet acknowledged. I was at a loss for words, so I laughed, but it felt more like a nervous breath than real amusement. "Unique, right? I'm simply worn out." I brushed it off, yet within energy surged. Every fleeting moment between us kept me wide awake, acutely aware. The air crackled, a tense pause, poised on the edge of the unknown. And I wasn't sure I was prepared for what came next. The night lingered, yet his stare held me captive. He felt it too, lingering longer than needed, his smile hinting at something deeper, something elusive. His presence shattered the calm of my life, a deep tremor in my chest. This was no ordinary visit. This evening was anything but ordinary. A shift occurred, a change I couldn't halt. As he exited to prepare for bed, I remained still, ensnared in a silence that had shifted from solace to confinement. The burden pressed down, and for the first time in ages, I questioned if I had been longing for a shakeup, something to reignite my spirit. The clock caught my eye. Late hours crept in and sleep beckoned, yet the idea of sharing that suffocating silence with my husband became intolerable. I rose, legs unsteady, approaching the bedroom. Just before the door swung open, a sound reached me, a gentle yet persistent tap. My heart raced. It was not my husband. There he was, my stepson, lingering at the threshold, an unspoken tension enveloping us. Shall we converse? He asked, voice a whisper, and I sensed that what followed would alter everything. The knock on the door hung heavy, impossible to ignore. My hand lingered on the doorknob, trembling faintly as I turned it slowly. The house's stillness felt stifling, every noise magnified in the void between us. As I opened the door, uncertainty loomed, yet nothing prepared me for the raw vulnerability in his eyes, so unguarded. He stood there, taller than I recalled, a quiet tension in his stance. He had shed his boyhood, and I sensed it the instant he entered the house. He was changed, a new presence lingering in the air. His physical growth was clear, but it was more than that. He moved with a confidence that made my heart race, poised and self-assured. I instinctively stepped back, giving him room to enter. He entered, and the room shrank, enveloped in an intimate aura. The distance between us had changed, though I hadn't admitted it to myself yet. I convinced myself it was all in my head, that everything remained the same, yet it did. The air was charged, heavy with unvoiced yearnings and a creeping sense that an unknown event loomed, one I wasn't certain I could face. He slipped into the room, footsteps barely a whisper, careful not to shatter the delicate silence enveloping us. He lingered, standing still for a moment, eyes fixed on me. His gaze pierced, and for an instant, I questioned if he could glimpse my hidden turmoil. He resembled his father, yet in a way he was entirely different. He had an aura that distinguished him, an elusive quality that felt too personal for what we had. "Everything all right?" he asked, voice low and careful, yet tinged with concern that made my heart race. He sounded unconcerned about his stepmother. His tone suggested a man contemplating whether I sought something beyond mere pleasantries. I nodded, even if the truth eluded me. "I'm fine," I replied, almost robotically, yet my gaze faltered, unable to linger on his for more than a fleeting moment. I turned my gaze, fearing he'd glimpse the truth, fearing my lies wouldn't hold. He paused, uncertainty hanging in the air. His hands, previously still, now toyed with his shirt sleeve, and I found myself captivated by the delicate dance of his fingers. I swiftly averted my eyes, chiding myself for letting them dwell on trivialities. The moment slipped away, silence enveloping us, tension unspoken yet palpable. "I've noticed you've changed lately," he said, his voice dropping, almost confessional, allowing me room to react, to respond. His words hung in the air, neutral yet heavy, a truth that had been silently building between us for days, weeks, maybe more. I hesitated to reply, uncertain about how to steer this dialogue. His words sliced through the indifference I had meticulously constructed. I didn't refuse to answer. I just wasn't prepared to confront the truth, even though it loomed before me. "Tired," I whispered, the falsehood slipping effortlessly from my tongue. The words were bitter on the tongue. Exhaustion barely scratched the surface of the turmoil within me. A deep-seated yearning that had been brewing in my heart for weeks, for months, an insatiable hunger for the incomprehensible. He nodded, eyes fixed on me. He seemed to anticipate my next words, sensing the barriers I had built. For a fleeting moment, I yearned to dismantle them and invite him closer. Yet, the dread of potential consequences restrained me. "You're not tired," he murmured, almost to himself, but just loud enough for me to catch. "You're unique." His gaze scanned my features, seeking a clue, a whisper, that I might confess what he already believed. I choked, throat parched, gasping beneath the heaviness of his stare. What was it about him, about this moment, that made everything seem so unique? Why did it seem like something was eluding me, something beyond my grasp? His words lingered, thick with significance. I was lost in this conversation, unable to find an escape. I stood at the cliff's edge, swaying with no return in sight. Only forward remained. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable," he murmured, his voice gentle, a hint of uncertainty lingering. Yet, a genuine sincerity lingered beneath the words. "Just checking in on you." My pulse raced, heart pounding in my chest. I felt fine, not at all as he imagined. It was a different realm. A profound sensation that awakened within me whenever he was close. Fear gripped me, a sense that once I crossed this line, there would be no return. Yet I kept all of that to myself. I gave him a faint smile, a feeble gesture of comfort. "I'm fine," I said again, but the words felt even more hollow than before. A long pause lingered, and I wondered if he would speak further, probe deeper. He nodded, eyes on me a moment longer, then turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I shut the door, fingers brushing the knob, heart pounding. Silence came back, yet it felt different. It was heavier, more stifling. In the quiet, his words lingered, a subtle accusation woven through them. "You're wide awake. You're unique." I felt as if I stood on the edge of an unchangeable fate. Something I couldn't deny was starting to reveal itself. The night dragged on, heavy with the aftermath of recent events. His words lingered, elusive and unclear. His gaze held me, probing, as if he sensed a secret I couldn't conceal. It felt odd, disquieting, and still his departure lingered in my thoughts. His presence shifted the beat of my life unexpectedly. I ought to have surrendered to sleep, allowing the embrace of routine to guide me into tranquility. Yet sleep slipped away as it frequently did lately. The bed next to me was colder than ever. It served as a harsh reminder of all I lacked, all I had yearned for endlessly. My husband hardly said a word to me that evening. He was ensnared in his own realm, consumed by his tasks, preoccupied with his issues, leaving no space for us. It was unclear if he recognized my transformation or if it was of no concern to him. Perhaps he was too occupied to even see. The thought left me hollow, more isolated than ever. He loved me, yet love felt like a given, a routine that demanded no effort anymore. I convinced myself I was okay, that it was merely a fleeting phase, a moment of unease. Yet, beneath the surface, I recognized the truth of my deception. The reality was much more intricate. My body throbbed with the longing I hadn't experienced in ages, a craving beyond mere stolen kisses or half-hearted intimacy. More was essential. I yearned for a spark, a warmth extinguished in my marriage. A hunger gnawed at me from within. Before dawn I rose, the night's burden lingering heavily. The house lay silent, interrupted only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator. I dressed swiftly, almost robotically, as if trapped in a routine I wished to escape. My hands shook as I dressed, fingers brushing the fabric of the blouse against my skin. I felt uneasy in my own skin, sharply aware of the gap between who I am now and the confident, passionate woman I once was. I felt like a specter, gliding through a life that had lost its shape. In the kitchen, I poured a cup of coffee, pondering the day's possibilities. Would it be another day with my husband lost in his work, while my thoughts drifted to unwanted places? Or might something shift, something unforeseen, something that could rattle the very core of my meticulously built existence? Sipping coffee at the kitchen table, my mind wandered to my stepson. What did he mean by his words? What did he see in me that sparked that gaze? I attempted to dismiss it as a mere whim, a transient intrigue, yet I understood within that it was something deeper. His presence stirred a deep longing within me, a feeling long suppressed by years of complacency and unyielding routine. I often convinced myself of my love for my husband, believing I was satisfied with our shared life. In countless ways, my love for him lingered. Yet love had lost its power. It transformed into a label, a term we clung to as society demanded. The passion, the fire, the connection I once felt, now vanished, leaving me lost in how to reclaim it. I could no longer pretend, trapped in this hollow relationship. I shot up, the chair screeching as I shoved it away. The abrupt shift caught me off guard. Yet I could no longer remain motionless. I had to escape the house, to do anything that might pull me away from the chaos in my mind. I put on my coat and stepped out, the chill biting my face as I made my way down the driveway. The neighborhood lay silent, houses cloaked in the soft glow of dawn. I had to escape, to inhale the life beyond my four walls. Uncertainty clouded my path. I was lost in my search. I walked, footsteps echoing, seeking to escape the consuming restlessness within. Eventually, I ended up at the park, perched on a bench, observing life unfold. The park lay still, punctuated only by distant birdsong. I pondered how many shared my sense of entrapment in unchosen lives, yearning for something more, something to reignite their spirits. I shut my eyes briefly, allowing the park's tranquility to envelop me. Suddenly, a presence appeared beside me. I blinked awake, my stepson before me, seemingly materialized from thin air. "Are you okay?" he inquired softly, his gaze probing into my own. The question remained unchanged, yet it bore a significance I could no longer dismiss. I hesitated to respond. I gazed at him, truly gazed, and for the first time I grasped our closeness, the depth of his significance in ways I hadn't fully recognized. Unsure, I admitted at last, my voice trembling yet sincere. "I'm lost on what to do next." He took a seat beside me, silent. His presence was both soothing and disquieting simultaneously. Uncertainty loomed, yet the outcome felt preordained. Everything had been leading to this moment, a culmination we could no longer overlook. For the first time in ages, a flicker of hope sparked within me, hinting that change might be on the horizon, a catalyst to confront the hidden truth at last. The ensuing days passed in a haze. I navigated the routine of everyday existence, rising, heading to work, feigning familiarity with my former self. Yet a change stirred within me. He consumed my thoughts, his gaze lingered, his essence infiltrating every crevice of my mind. I neither sought it nor was I ready for it. There it lingered, quietly expanding in the recesses of my thoughts. With every glance at my husband, the gap between us widened. His voice, once familiar, now echoed a disconnection I couldn't grasp. We occupied the same bed, the same house, yet the distance between us had deepened, more evident than ever. Each touch was robotic, each kiss a duty. He was oblivious to the shift, not entirely. Or if he had, he kept it to himself. He was lost in his own world, absorbed by work, caught in the monotony of his routine. He appeared unaware of the silent disintegration of our relationship, the gradual fading of what was once a deep connection. And then came my stepson. Just thinking of him sent my heart racing, a thrilling fear coursing through me. I never thought I could betray my partner's trust. Yet, the harder I pushed my feelings away, the louder they grew. I felt trapped in his presence. He lingered, a reminder of all I had refused to face. I made efforts to evade him, to keep my distance. I convinced myself nothing was different, merely a fleeting moment. Yet the reality was clear. Whenever he was close, whenever our gazes locked, the air crackled with an undeniable intensity. We shared a quiet pact, an unspoken bond that lingered in the air, felt but never acknowledged. The tension between us deepened, becoming almost tangible with every day that went by. Despite my efforts to stay away, I couldn't help but seek him out, crafting reasons to be close. It defied reason, it defied logic. Yet it was genuine. The attraction was irresistible, binding me tightly. Every stolen moment was a bittersweet gift. Dangerous yet thrilling. A rush fueled by secrecy and the forbidden bond we shared. One afternoon, alone at the kitchen table while my husband worked, the house silent, a gentle knock echoed at the door. I recognized the sender before I even clicked to see. My heart raced as I approached the front door, the air heavy with expectation. He stood there, face flushed, as if he'd been waiting outside too long. He was silent, eyes locked on me, as if hoping I'd break the tension that lingered between us. "I need to talk to you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. I gulped, a blend of fear and longing churning within me. I moved aside, letting him in, despite the inner turmoil insisting this was wrong. Yet I was powerless to prevent it. I wished to keep it going. He took a seat opposite me, and for a brief moment silence enveloped us. The air crackled with unvoiced thoughts, each moment amplifying the burden of what remained unsaid. Thoughts surged, heart pounded, yet silence held me captive. I felt lost, unable to articulate the turmoil within me. At last he shattered the quiet. "I can't stop thinking about you," he murmured, his voice a soft breath. The words lingered, a confession laid bare. I stood still. The world halted, a moment frozen in time. His words sparked a fire within me, one I had fought to suppress. Now there was no way out. "I can't grasp what's going on," he said, his gaze fixed on me. "I can't overlook this, no matter what it is." My breath hitched in my throat. It simmered just below the surface, rising in reaction to his confession. Yet I couldn't reveal it. We couldn't ignore the repercussions of our actions. Words escaped me. My body responded to him, to his words, yet I couldn't admit it. Guilt slinked back. An unwelcome companion I thought I had left behind. What was I up to? How did we end up in this place? I am not possible. Words tangled, thoughts raced, seeking clarity in chaos. No simple solution existed. Honestly, I was just as lost. A part of me yearned to flee, to escape him completely. Yet a deeper urge stirred within me, an undeniable desire to bridge the gap, to experience his touch, to reconnect with something genuine once more. He extended his hand, hesitant, uncertain if I would retreat. Yet I remained still. In that brief touch, something old awakened, quiet but undeniable, igniting a surge of electricity within me. It was tender, soothing, yet it embodied all my desires. It was an unexplainable touch, a connection beyond words. In that instant, I realized that what had begun between us was irreversible. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered, sincerity lacing his voice. "I'm at a loss on how to end this." I refused to quit. My heart raced, breath quickening and shallow. His words sparked a long-buried hunger within me. The urge to surrender, to accept our shared emotions, was nearly unbearable. The potential fallout was simply too severe. A whisper lingered in my mind, suggesting I might be too far gone to turn back. As he lingered, his hand close to mine, I sensed the silence had shifted. It felt liberating now. It was a silence untainted by avoidance or regret. The quiet held a deep connection, a silence that conveyed so much without a word. In that moment, caught between dread and longing, a single truth emerged. Everything changed forever. The ensuing days were a delicate dance on the edge of reality and an unnamed danger, palpable yet elusive for both of us. His touch lingered, an electric sensation that wouldn't fade, no matter how hard I tried to bury it. My thoughts spun in a chaotic dance of emotions, fear clashing with longing, guilt entwined with the deep yearning for more. Each encounter drew us closer, yet in our separations the silence pressed down, more burdensome than ever. No one could know. I couldn't grasp what was unfolding. How can I put this into words? This was no mere fling, no brief misstep in reasoning. This was a whole other realm, something profound. The ground beneath me trembled, and I stood powerless as everything I knew began to fall apart. Yet life marched on. It rushed on, leaving me breathless, tangled in my own chaos. I moved like a shadow, masquerading as the woman I once was. I smiled at work, engaged in small talk, fulfilled my duties. Yet upon returning home, everything seemed altered. My husband remained unchanged, absorbed in his work, unaware of the turmoil simmering beneath our marriage. Yet I could no longer feign that everything remained the same. I had changed. Never again. Each night I lay beside him, his warmth a stark contrast to the chill within me. Sleep eluded me. My thoughts wouldn't quiet down. My mind wandered to him, to our shared moments, that brief, charged instant that unlocked a path I couldn't abandon. Uncertain of the pull he had on me, I pondered if it was the attention, the care, or something deeper still. Yet one truth remained clear to me. It was something I had long desired. The weight of guilt pressed down, yet I still pursued him. Every time I encountered him, an unseen pull captivated me, impossible to ignore. I sought reasons to linger close, to experience that spark, that warmth radiating from him. Every stolen glance, every fleeting touch, confirmed all I had been feeling. It was mesmerizing. As days morphed into weeks, the burden of our actions draped over me like a thick shroud. The hidden truths, the deception, the relentless anxiety of exposure, it began to consume me. Still, despite everything, I couldn't make myself quit. I simply didn't want to quit. I was lost, unable to find the way out. One evening, wandering the hallway, lost in thought, I caught the distant echo of footsteps trailing behind me. My heart raced as I turned, half expecting him to be there. Yet it wasn't him. My husband gazed at me, confusion etched on his face. "Are you all right?" he inquired, worry tinging his tone. I smiled, but it was a mask slipping away. "Yeah, I'm fine," I replied, my voice a whisper, distant and fragile. He held back. He didn't. He nodded and walked back to his office. Yet, An unnameable shift lingered in the air, elusive and profound. Perhaps it was his gaze, or perhaps it was my realization of the distance I had created between us. I couldn't escape the sense that he was aware, even in silence. His eyes held a truth that unraveled my carefully constructed facade, leaving me questioning everything. I headed to the kitchen, seeking solace in a cup of tea. As I reached for the tea leaves in the cupboard, another knock echoed at the door. I stood still. There was no doubt in my mind about their identity. There he was again, as certain as dawn's arrival. My heart raced, a blend of excitement and dread coursing through me. I paused, collecting my thoughts, steadying my breath. No retreat now, not after all we've experienced together. I approached the door, each step measured, as if I teetered on the edge of an unknown plunge. As I opened the door, he stood there, his face a blank canvas. As his gaze met mine, warmth flickered in his eyes, stirring something profound inside me. Each encounter stirred that familiar sensation within me. A force I couldn't resist, an undeniable attraction. For the first time, I understood that I didn't want to. "I need to see you," he murmured, his voice a fragile thread, laden with significance. I delayed my response. Words choked in my throat, entwined with guilt and a haunting desire. I remained silent. He moved in, his aura consuming, and I stayed put. Silently, he extended his hand, lightly grazing my arm. It was a deliberate caress. It was extraordinary, deeply personal, a moment that caught my breath. We stood still, the world's weight heavy upon us, frozen in an irreversible moment. His fingers brushed my sleeve, a feather-light touch that seemed to suspend time itself. Every part of me tingled, every inch of my skin alive with the electric pull between us. In that instant, I understood there was no turning back. Despite my efforts to resist, this was the journey I had embraced, the journey we both had embraced. Now the question remained: how far would we venture? He moved in, his lips barely grazing my ear. "I can't resist you," he murmured. Words sparked in darkness, igniting a consuming fire within. I stood still, the whisper of his lips by my ear echoing, a shiver racing down my spine. Every instinct urged me to retreat, to halt this chaos before it unraveled completely. A hidden part of me, unrecognized and unwelcomed, drew me nearer to him. The air was electric, laden with silence and the weight of our shared history. We lingered, mere inches apart, electrified by the moment. His hand lingered on my arm, igniting a surge of warmth within me. The physical touch was powerful, but it was more than that. The bond, that unspoken recognition, had blossomed since our initial gaze. That moment of irresistible allure. I had deceived myself for ages, acting as if I could overlook the truth. I convinced myself it was merely a momentary sensation, destined to fade away. Yet here, with him so near, the truth was clear. I couldn't simply turn my back on this. Never again. What began as a fleeting spark evolved into something deeper. I was drawn in, unable to break free. I tried to speak, but silence held me captive. I was at a loss for words. What can I express? Stop. I felt weak, insignificant against the overwhelming tide of emotions flooding my heart and mind. Too deep, trapped in guilt and longing, torn between my crafted life and the chaos I chose. His hand glided from my arm to my waist, a gentle yet firm touch, silently seeking permission, poised for my decision. The decision looms. Remain in the safety of the ordinary or leap into the unknown, where danger and allure await, forever altering the course of my existence. The decision loomed heavy, choking my breath. I reflected on my husband, the life we created, the beliefs I once held dear. Yet, as I envisioned him here in this shared moment, it seemed far away. It seemed a realm where I was a stranger. Our bond frayed gradually, thread by thread, leaving only a silent chasm in its wake. There he stood, my stepson, a true man yet still carrying a spark of youth, brimming with potential. Initially, his presence was pure, but it gradually transformed into something deeper. A quiet bond formed, an undeniable energy between us. "I can't keep pretending," I murmured, the words slipping out before I could hold them back. Words slipped from my lips, unintended and irreversible. The confession lingered, truth weaving itself into the silence between us. his grip on my waist firm, drawing me in slightly. The heat of his body enveloped me, a warmth that beckoned. Even as I recognized the wrongness of it all, he remained silent. He just stared, his gaze piercing, as if expecting me to act to prove this was real, that I wasn't lost in the chaos of my own feelings. My heart raced, a frantic beat echoing in my ears. Every fiber of my being urged me to halt, to retreat, to reclaim my grip. In the silence that lingered, only my quick, shallow breath echoed in the void. My body turned against me, responding to his proximity, to his caress. I longed for something real, something beyond the dull routine of my days. Craved the bond we had, regardless of the peril it brought. The harder I resisted, the more intense the draw grew. With hesitation, I inched closer, bridging the gap between us. My hands trembled as I reached for him, hesitating at first, then boldly as desire surged within me. I traced the hem of his shirt, sensing the firmness of his muscles beneath. He remained still, silent. He seemed to linger, anticipating my choice, eager for a sign that I was prepared for what lay ahead. For the first time in ages, I was ready. Prepared to escape the life I once lived. Prepared to surrender to the primal, irresistible desire that had been building within me. We stood close, our breaths mingling, a silence between us louder than any words. It lacked softness, no gentleness like before. It was critical, a frantic outpouring of all I had bottled up. Our lips collided with unexpected intensity, momentarily erasing all else. I erased the guilt, the fallout, the life I was forsaking. In that instant, only the blaze between us counted, the warmth of his form, the flavor of his kiss. His hands gripped me, drawing me near, his touch firm and insistent. Certainty reigned, questions faded away. Clarity emerged. We had moved on. A line was crossed, forever unrecrossable. He stepped closer, his gaze searching for something I wasn't ready to admit. Sealing our fate, we had made our choice, united in this journey. The world blurred, and I understood I was no longer who I had been days before. The woman who once thrived in routine and predictability was gone. In her stead stood a stranger, driven by longing and dread, poised to enter a realm devoid of certainties. Yet it mattered not. In that instant, his presence consumed me. The kiss ignited a fire, and I knew we were crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. For the first time in ages, I felt truly alive. The morning after was surreal, a transition from dream to an unforgiving reality. The house stirred to life. The refrigerator hummed, traffic rumbled in the distance, and leaves whispered in the wind. Everything felt altered now, as if the air itself had changed, twisted by the decisions I made last night. My thoughts were clouded, my body burdened by the aftermath. I lingered, eyes fixed on the ceiling, seeking clarity in the chaos. The harder I thought, the more the night's events twisted into a whirlwind of longing, remorse, and an unnamed feeling lurking beneath. Sunlight crept through the window, shadows stretched across the room. Yet it was the silence that wrapped around me. The silence was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was not the stillness of calm or isolation, but the stillness of a fracture, a wound that could not heal. The realization that things could never return to their former state, regardless of my longing for it. My heart raced, its thud echoing in the silence. The echoes of our kiss lingered, his touch seared into my skin, a mark of something undeniable. Every part of me remained sharply attuned to his presence, despite his absence, despite the emptiness of the room. He remained, a whisper in the depths of my thoughts. I considered my husband, peacefully sleeping in the next room. His unaware image hit me, a pang of guilt slicing deeper than anticipated. He was always kind, patient, and understanding. Somewhere along the way, I lost my way from him, and now there's no return. I had betrayed him deeply. The idea twisted my gut, yet brought an odd clarity. It was irreversible. I couldn't undo the past. The door creaked, footsteps drawing near, soft yet purposeful. I could tell without even glancing. The air was thick, an unspoken understanding hanging like a heavy fog. He entered the room, his presence saturating the air with a subtle power. We stood in silence, words unspoken between us. The room buzzed with tension, thick as a brewing storm. He averted his gaze initially, His eyes scanned the floor, the walls, seeking something, anything to shatter the silence. I had to act now. I couldn't lie still, acting as if nothing had occurred, as if we hadn't crossed an irreversible line. I jolted awake, heart pounding, locking eyes with him. His eyes, dark and deep, held a swirl of emotions I couldn't decipher. Was it remorse? Longing? Or could it be something more profound? I tried to speak, but silence filled the air. What can I express? No words could justify our actions, nor lift the burden of our choice. I nodded, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes without uttering a sound. He nodded, his face a mask, and for an instant it seemed we were bound by a silent accord, a deal neither grasped, yet both embraced. "I'm not sorry," he declared, his voice calm yet firm. The words struck me hard, not from surprise but from their perfect resonance with my hidden emotions. I felt no regret as well. No. I sensed the wrongness, the unmistakable truth of my mistake, lurking in the shadows of my thoughts. Yet deep within a voice echoed, affirming this was right, the answer I had long sought. He perched on the bed's edge, warmth emanating from him, palpable in the air. I stayed put. I was unable to. Our connection was undeniable, irresistibly intense. He was always there, an unstoppable force beyond my control. We lingered in silence, words escaping us both. The world kept spinning, oblivious to the tempest that had erupted between us. Yet within all had changed. My life's foundation, once solid, now trembles at its core. There was no turning back. At last, he shattered the stillness once more, his voice a mere breath. "I hope this becomes something lasting." The words lingered, a challenge, a promise, a threat. I had my doubts, yet they resonated within me, clashing with all I sought to escape, all the truths I had buried deep. "I understand," I replied, my voice quivering just a bit. That was all I could utter. It was the sole clarity amidst chaos. Uncertainty loomed, yet I sensed the journey was far from finished. This was no mere error. A new dawn. That realization above all filled me with dread. The silence lingered anew, yet it felt altered. This silence felt full. It brimmed, alive with all we had conveyed in silence. As I gazed at him so near, I realized there was no turning back, no reversing what had begun. I chose no turning back now. The ensuing days were a whirlwind of tumultuous feelings. Nights stretched long as I lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling, thoughts racing uncontrollably. I crossed a line, one I could never return from, yet every fiber of my being urged me onward, irresistibly drawn to him, as instinctive as inhaling. A strange inevitability hung in the air, as if all that had transpired and all that was to come converged on this moment. I was uncertain of my transformation, yet I realized I could no longer feign my former self. At home everything felt the same. My husband followed his usual path, absorbed in his work as ever. He appeared oblivious to the quiet change within me, or perhaps he was simply too preoccupied to notice. Yet I sensed it. It was in my movements around the house, in my interactions with him. Each touch, each word seemed remote, nearly alien. The silence between us was devoid of passion, a heavy weight I couldn't shake off. He lingered in my mind. My stepson, the moments we shared, his intense gaze, his touch igniting buried feelings within me, transcended the physical. The bond, the mutual grasp that formed between us. We understood each other's desires perfectly. We played a perilous game, yet neither of us wished to end it. Every encounter with him felt like an irresistible force drawing me in. He dominated the space, drawing my focus entirely, leaving no room for other thoughts. I attempted to keep my distance, to shove him aside, yet it always failed. Each look, each fleeting touch pulled me in deeper. The air crackled with tension, thick and electric, as if a storm loomed just out of sight. Thoughts of my husband lingered, reflecting on the life we crafted side by side. Life now seemed hollow void. Once I believed I loved him, yet love had lost its power. It had been ages. It had ceased to be about him. It concerned another matter, a concept that eluded me. My feelings for him waned, supplanted by a thrilling, perilous spark. There I stood at the brink, caught between the urge to leap and the instinct to retreat. The burden of my choice loomed large, knowing it would alter everything. Yet I found myself unable to look away. The tug was overwhelming, the craving fierce. I had surrendered before, and now there was no escaping the truth, no way to retreat. One afternoon I was alone at home, my husband away on yet another business trip. The silence weighed heavily. The house loomed vast and empty. I drifted through the rooms, uncertain of my search. Only when I entered the living room did I spot him, by the window, facing away. He was oblivious to my presence, and for a fleeting moment I lingered, observing him. He had changed. Increased confidence, heightened assurance. The boy I once knew had vanished, replaced by a man whose every movement radiated intensity. It had appeared in fragments before, yet now it was unmistakable. He had transcended the role of stepson. He was an enigma, a blend of fear and excitement. I stepped closer, heart racing, almost expecting him to turn and face me. Yet he didn't. He remained motionless, his back turned, the air heavy with unspoken tension. Words failed me. Words had run dry. Emotions erupted within me. A profound urge to bridge the gap between us, to surrender to the undeniable pull that had been building. At last he uttered a word, his tone soft, tinged with uncertainty. "You know what this is," he said, his voice heavy, making my heart race. "We understand each other's emotions." No response came. I was unable to. Silence reigned. His words spoke volumes. He faced me, and for a heartbeat we simply stood, gazing at one another. His eyes bore into me, seeking what I feared I couldn't provide. Without a word he stepped closer, his hand softly tucking my hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle, yet it held an intensity that stole my breath away. The bond was inescapable, and I realized then that escape was impossible. The line was crossed. Retreat was impossible. His hand moved to my waist, drawing me nearer, and I was powerless to resist. My body reacted to him inexplicably, as if it had always understood the way forward. We moved in perfect harmony, our bodies pulled together by an unseen force beyond our control. Eyes shut, the world vanished as his lips met mine. The kiss began gently, hesitant, each of us poised for the other to take the lead. Yet, gradually it intensified, growing stronger with every fleeting moment. My hands traced his chest, sensing the firm muscles beneath his shirt, and I instinctively drew him nearer, craving more of him. The kiss fulfilled my deepest longings, a taste of what I had yearned for. It was raw and fierce, brimming with desire, and in that instant all else faded away. The aftermath, the remorse, the existence I was forsaking. The heat between us mattered most. A fire sparked the instant our eyes locked. In that kiss I felt it, this was just the start. No way to retreat now. Days slipped by, a whirlwind of feelings I struggled to grasp. I found myself in a new reality where right and wrong blurred, and all I could do was hold on and navigate the storm I had made. Each look, each caress resonated. Time stretching as all I once grasped faded away. My thoughts were a fog. My thoughts swirled, engulfed by him, by us. Life felt like a haze, a disconnection from everything surrounding me. My husband, unaware of my transformation, continued his daily grind, lost in his tasks. Each day widened the gap between us, yet I hesitated to face it. A fresh presence emerged, overshadowing all else. I struggled to maintain my calm, to go on with life as if all was the same, yet it proved futile. Each time my stepson appeared, that electric pull surged within me anew. It transcended the physical. It delved into the emotional realm as well. His gaze, a silent understanding that no one else could grasp. It was mesmerizing, irresistible. I craved those moments of his presence, the silent connection, the fleeting touch, the glance that conveyed everything without words. I realized I was fading away, yet I couldn't pull back. The urge to be near him, to sense his warmth, was intense. It had embedded itself within me, resisting every effort to conceal it. Resistance only fueled its power. I felt submerged, lost beneath the weight, struggling to resurface. One evening post-dinner, my husband retired early, as was his custom. Alone in the living room, thoughts swirled, body restless, craving more. The house was eerily silent, a suffocating stillness that pressed in from all sides. I had to leave, to inhale, to break free from the pressure mounting within. I snatched my coat and darted outside, the frigid air jolting me awake. The neighborhood lay in darkness, a serene facade that amplified the tempest within me. I wandered aimlessly, thoughts swirling, grappling with truths I wished to ignore. It followed me relentlessly. No distance or effort could shake it off. Then, as if destiny had nudged me deeper into chaos, I spotted him. He stood by the park, mere blocks from home. I recognized him instantly, even with his back to me. My heart raced and I paused for a heartbeat. What was I up to? What am I doing here? Before I could respond to my thoughts, he turned and our gazes locked. Silence spoke volumes. The tension, the longing, the silent connection we share. It lingered, heavy and inescapable. He stepped closer, eyes locked on mine, and I realized we were ensnared, unable to escape. Silence spoke volumes. His mere presence sufficed. A thrilling blend of fear and excitement coursed through me, marking this moment as both an end and a perilous new beginning. Uncertainty loomed, yet in that instant it held no weight. The pull between us was undeniable, a connection that consumed everything. I stepped closer, drawn into his embrace, warmth enveloping us both. Heart racing, breath hitching, yet I pressed on. I had no desire to. I was indifferent to the aftermath, to the life I was abandoning. This was everything. This instant, this bond, this sensation that enveloped me. Our lips touched and everything else vanished. It was a kiss unlike any, brimming with yearning, with passion, with all we had restrained. The kiss intensified and I found myself surrendering, unable to resist, unable to escape. Something stirred deep within me, a feeling I hadn't felt in years. To the warmth of his skin, to the intensity of his caress. This transcended the physical realm. This was profound, transcending all I had ever experienced. As we broke apart, gasping, silence enveloped us. Silence reigned. They were unnecessary. All our emotions hung in the air, our bodies intertwined, unwilling to separate. I don't want to hide anymore, he whispered, voice hoarse, breath warm on my skin. For the first time, I felt no need to conceal myself. I couldn't ignore what was blossoming between us. It was undeniable, and I could no longer feign ignorance. In the park's quiet embrace, uncertainty loomed ahead, fraught with dangers and consequences I had yet to grasp. I realized I had crossed a line, and retreat was impossible. This was our truth now, and despite my efforts, I couldn't evade it. This was my choice. Now we must face the aftermath together.